Hello, I just wanted to make a quick little video off the cuff about Psychology A Day. I read this article about how conservatives are against science, how this is super dangerous, and how, we wouldn't even be around if it wasn't for science. Like, we owe everything to science. Science is the best. And, it turns out that this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't even read the science he talks about. It's really embarrassing to have an MD talk about, climate change, or, in this case, there was another article written about a PhD talk about science. And talk about Galileo, and he obviously has never read anything about it. He just kind of knows the stereotypical go-to thing where Galileo was some brave guy standing up against the church who was, obviously evil for some reason. Doesn't never read anything about it, doesn't know any of the nuance behind it, doesn't know that, oh no, it turns out Galileo's hypothesis and theories were not borne out in his data, and that actually they had better models to fit the data at the time than that had, uniform circular motion, and that's what the church was going with because that's what the data said. Like whatever. There are lots of people who had lots of crazy theories at the time that were wrong. Galileo happened to be right, but it wasn't because of his data. Anyways, that's kind of a side note, but in general, it's just frustrating to see well-educated people like PhDs who have no idea what they're talking about when it comes to science, as if it's conservatives who are against science, when liberals are constantly talking about how no, gender doesn't exist. We know from science that male and female brains actually are different, and not only that, they actually operate differently. We know that from biology that male and female bodies are different and they operate differently. And yet feminists and leftists say no, they're exactly the same. All of these differences in STEM and this and that, those are all just oppression. It couldn't possibly be because men and women are different on a biological level. Or even sociology. Like, it could be the fact that it's a result of society without it being oppression. Anyways, it's just frustrating because leftists, sorry about this closing window, leftists really are the anti-scientists of our day. It's embarrassing to listen to people who tout science who obviously don't read the science. It's not that we say that we deny global warming, it's that we've looked at it, decided the science is trash, and we disagree on the outcomes. Now, there's a lot of reasons why a field might disagree with someone who is kind of uninvolved, with like a third party, because in the field, these people are specialists. If tomorrow it turned out global warming wasn't true, a lot of these PhDs would lose their job, wouldn't be able to find another job. If they did find a job, they wouldn't be at the top. It's not like you can go, from studying tree rings to nanotechnology overnight. No, they'd start at the bottom. And so they desperately need the funding to keep rolling in. So that's why you get all of these disaster scenarios. And that's why, for decades now, you've had to listen to people talk about, overpopulation, global warming, Manhattan's going to be under 16 feet of water next year, and, the coral reefs are gonna be bleached out in 2 weeks, and, of course it never happens, right? When they had that huge oil spill, off of Florida, people kept talking about how, the ecosystems will never recover. Those coral reefs, those fish, we're going to lose so many species. Never happened. Everything bounced right back. Turns out the ocean's a pretty big place. Wasn't a big deal. Ecologically speaking, and yet you never hear about it. You just hear all these disaster scenarios. Then when it doesn't happen, people already got their funding, people already got the money, and so they don't never give back the funding. They never say, oh, well, turns out we were completely wrong. Sorry for wasting taxpayer money. No, that never happens. Anyways, just wanted to throw this out there that, it's actually the left that's anti-science. The right actually does a very, very good job of following the science. The only problem is that you have these institutional issues. And it's not, just me and just people on the right talking about this. It's people from other fields, like physicists and chemists talk about how unrigorous climate science is. And how, well, it's not like you went and studied this information. You made a computer model, and then you studied the computer model. Well, that's not really the same thing as empirical evidence. Can you really even call it science? Most people don't know that the majority of warming due to global warming actually is not CO2. CO2 is almost nothing. It's actually, they predict that since you have slightly higher CO2, it'll lead to more evaporation of water. More water will end up in the atmosphere, and water is actually a much greater greenhouse gas than CO2. And it's that extra water in the atmosphere that will lead to kind of this exponential growth in the climate, and not growth in the growth in the temperature, which will change the climate. It doesn't seem to be borne out at all. It just seems that when you have more CO2 in the atmosphere, plants eat it faster, and you get a more robust growth, of plant life, which is actually great because, animals, it's easier for animals to find food. It's easier for us to grow food. I don't know. It's just embarrassing for people on the left. They're going to look back in 100 years and they're not going to see this as the Enlightenment. They're going to see this as the counter-Enlightenment. That, people today, they're just obsessed with feelings and they don't look at the science, they don't know the science, but man, they pray to the science. They keep saying, oh yeah, like I love science, like science, but yet they don't know any of it. They don't read it. And it's just sad for Psychology Today, a well-respected publication with lots of PhDs, to post something like this, and for no one to say, hey, like, why are you being so mean to conservatives? Like, most conservatives are pretty smart. They can look at the evidence themselves, and just because they disagree with you, now they're deniers, now they're this, now they're that, now they're calling for the end of civilization. This article was really really toxic, as if somehow because I disagree with the poster of this article, with the author, that somehow I'm going to lead to early death for millions of people. When it's actually the opposite. If we restrict carbon use and we restrict emissions, that actually curtails energy in the third world, which is going to lead to the death of millions or billions of people. Like literally, like lots of people die because there's not enough energy. And the best thing we can do is get cheap energy to poor people. And a lot of times that cheap energy is coal or oil. Anyways, it's sad day for Psychology Today. Sad day for the left. Just keep an eye out on this. Anyone who looks into this, just whenever you hear a leftist talking about science, it's really important to go and read the journals and the articles they talk about, because they keep citing these same articles over and over again, these same publications. And when you go and read them and find out, oh no, you're actually just wrong. You actually just don't know what you're talking about. Turns out 97% of scientists don't believe in catastrophic global warming. Anyways, have a great day. Thanks for listening in if you're here. Bye.